Hello hockey fans, and welcome back to another episode of Buyer's Remorse, the series where we look back at some of the biggest trades, signings, or other acquisitions in league history, but teams didn't quite get what they paid for. In today's episode, we are going to be taking a look at one of the most lopsided goalie trades in recent memory, as we explore why the Tuukka Rask Andrew Raycroft trade gave one team all the buyer's remorse. So let's begin with the trade itself. On June 24th, 2006, during the NHL's yearly entry draft, it was announced that the Toronto Maple Leafs, who had finished the prior 05-06 season just 2 points out of a playoff spot, had acquired Canadian netminder Andrew Raycroft from their bitter Original Six rivals, the Boston Bruins, who finished their season well out of the playoff race at 13th in the East, in exchange for goaltender prospect Tuukka Rask. So the deal was a simple player-for-player transaction. No other players, prospects, or draft picks involved, just a good old-fashioned hockey deal. Now, in order to figure out who felt buyer's remorse from this deal and why, if it's not already obvious, let's go back to the very beginning and look at each player's career up until this trade. We'll start with the older player of the two, Andrew Raycroft. The 135th pick by the Boston Bruins in the 1998 NHL entry draft, Raycroft spent the next half a decade climbing up the Bruins depth chart, either by grinding away in the minors or during his brief stints on Boston's roster between the years 2000 and 2003. The former 5th round pick finally earned a full-time spot on the Bruins roster at the commencement of the 03-04 season and hit the ground running, posting a 29, 18 and 9 record, a 2.05 goals against average and a .926 save percentage. These stats were so good that Raycroft received the 2004 Calder Memorial Trophy for Rookie of the Year. Raycroft would return to the Bruins crease in 05-06, following the season-long lockout the year prior, play 30 games for the team, post a pretty disappointing 8, 19 and 2 record to bring his NHL record to 43, 46, 12 and 2 in 108 regular season games. Remember, there were ties before the 04-05 lockout, so that's why there's 4 different categories there. On the flip side of this transaction was, of course, Tuukka Rask. The 21st overall selection by the Maple Leafs at the 2005 NHL entry draft, Rask had spent the season prior to this trade with Isles of the Finnish Liga. The Finnish netminder hadn't exactly broken out as a star goalie, but had put up decent numbers, with a 12, 7 and 8 record, a 2.09 goals against average, and a .926 save percentage in 30 games. So, you have the Leafs acquiring a 29-win Canadian netminder and a former Rookie of the Year, whilst Boston picked up an up-and-coming European netminder who was still a few years away from competing for a place in the NHL. Considering where both teams were at when this deal was made, this trade makes a lot of sense. The Leafs had only just missed out on the playoffs by a single win and wanted to improve their talent at the netminding position in order to get them back into the postseason, whilst the Bruins were looking to reset their roster after a disappointing season and acquire a top goalie prospect who would hopefully lead their charge back into the playoffs in the years to come. Well, if this deal was so good, Oddman Rush, why did you say it's one of the most lopsided goalie trades in recent memory, huh? Let's look at what happened to these two players after this trade, and you'll see. Oh boy, you'll see. Following his acquisition by Toronto, Andrew Raycroft made a strong first impression in Ontario, posting a career-high 37-win season, which actually completely overshadowed his rather mediocre 2.99 goals against average and .894 save percentage. After that though, things went really, really wrong. Raycroft played just 19 more games as a Maple Leaf during the following 07-08 season, posted a 2-9-5 record before having his contract bought out on June 24, 2008, exactly 2 years after the trade, finishing his stint in Toronto with a 39, 34 and 14 record in 91 games. Raycroft would then go on to play 4 more seasons in the NHL, split between the Colorado Avalanche, the Vancouver Canucks and the Dallas Stars, before leaving the league in 2012, heading overseas to Europe for a couple of years until he announced his retirement in 2014, finishing his NHL career with a 113, 114, 10 and 17 record in 280 regular season games. On the flip side, Tuukka Rask would play another season in Finland following the trade, before heading to North America and officially joining the Bruins system in 07-08. The Finnish netminder spent the next few years working his way up the depth chart, before earning the backup netminder role on the Bruins roster in 09-10. Rask played pretty well for Boston, earning the starting goaltender position following the 12-13 lockout, and the rest was history. Rask has so far forged himself a pretty incredible NHL career, which has seen him receive 2 All-Star appearances, a Vezina Trophy, a Stanley Cup in 2011, as well as 2 other trips to the finals, not to mention having the best save percentage in the entire National Hockey League once, and the most shutouts in the NHL twice. He also holds the Bruins franchise records for most games played by a Bruins goaltender and most wins. Not bad, eh? At the time of this recording, Rask has a 288, 156 and 64 record in 531 games, all with the Boston Bruins, as well as a 2.27 career goals against average and a .922 career save percentage. So, the former Rookie of the Year played just 91 games with the Maple Leafs, won roughly half of them before being bought out and moving elsewhere, while the Finnish prospect has gone on to become one of the best netminders to ever suit up in a Boston Bruins uniform. If Toronto doesn't feel a ton of buyer's remorse after a deal like that, I don't know what will. You want to know the worst part about this deal for the Maple Leafs though? It was later revealed that before the trade was proposed, the Bruins had planned to release Raycroft from the team, meaning that if Toronto had waited just a little bit longer, they could have signed Raycroft as a free agent and kept Tuukka Rask. Just when you thought Leafs fans had suffered enough, another nail gets pushed into the coffin, eh folks? So, in conclusion, the Tuukka Rask-Andrew Raycroft trade looked like a pretty fair deal for both sides at the time the transaction was made. Toronto picked up a goalie with a decent resume that could help push them back into the playoffs, while Boston received a longer-term project who would be ready to play in the NHL when the team was strong enough to get back into playoff contention. What actually happened was the Bruins found their next franchise goaltender, whilst Toronto essentially picked up a 2-year rental who showed flashes of brilliance, but fizzled out just as quickly. For the Bruins, this trade is arguably one of the best they've ever made. For the Leafs, it's certainly one they regret. And that's why the Tuukka Rask-Andrew Raycroft trade gave the Toronto Maple Leafs buyer's remorse. What do you guys think about this trade? Also, is there another acquisition, free agency or trade deadline you would like me to look at as part of this series? Let me know in the comments below, I would love to hear what you guys think. But thank you very much for watching guys, I hope you have enjoyed. Please feel free to like, subscribe, share or watch some of my other videos. Thank you very much for watching and goodbye. A big thank you to Chris Gadsby, Connor B, Jordan Whitehead and Martin Tolness, as well as a huge thank you to Max Artists and The Legacy for helping support this video via Patreon. If you too want to help support the channel a little bit further and get a shout out at the end of every future video, make sure you head over to patreon.com/oddmanrush and become a patron today.